Hello all. In today's lecture, we will try to read and understand a poem that is by A.K Ramanujan. The name of the poem is A River. First of all, I would like to ask a question to you. I know that you are not the person, you are not the student of literature, but there is literature in everybody's life if we observe that. Okay, so my question is, if I give you an activity to write about a poem, to write a poem, then what would be your object? What would be your theme? Okay, so someone will say that I will write a poem on love. Other will say I will write a poem on red rose. Other person will say that I will write a poem on friendship, the importance of friendship. Okay, so we have this all themes, object, okay, which can be included in a poem. But here the writer has a different perspective while he looks towards a river, and especially as if it is the river of India. Okay, because we know that in Indian culture, river is considered something that is very much important from the religious perspective. Okay, but what Ramanujan thinks in this poem about river, let us see. So first we try to read the poem, we read the poem, and then we will try to understand the poem. A River by A.K Ramanujan. In Madurai, city of temples and poets, who sang of cities and temples, every summer a river dries a trickle in the sand, bearing the sand reaps, straw and women's hair, clogging the water gates at the busty bars under the bridges with patches of repair all over them, the wet stones glistening like sleepy crocodiles, the dry ones shaven water buffaloes lounging in the sun. The poets only sang of the floods. He was there for a day when they had the floods. People everywhere talked of the each's rising, of the precise number of cobbled steps run over by the water rising on the bathing places, and the way it carried off 3 village houses, 1 pregnant woman, and a couple of cows named Gopi and Brinda as usual. The new poets still quoted the old poets, but no one spoke in verse of the pregnant women, drowned with perhaps twins in her, kicking at blank walls even before birth. He said, the river has water enough to be poetic about only once a year, and then it carries away in the first half hour 3 village houses, a couple of cows named Gopi and Brinda, and 1 pregnant woman expecting identical twins with no moles on their bodies, with different colored diapers to tell them apart. Okay, so we saw the poem. So it is a simple poem by the writer when he talks about subtle things of someone's life. Okay, so he gives us minute observation through the poem. So we see by stanza, in Madurai, city of temples and poets, who sang of cities and temples. So The setting of the poem is Madurai, Okay, and the city is known for temples and poets, and the poets also write about temples, about their city. Okay, a river dries to a trickle in the sand every summer. Okay, what happens in every summer? The river dries. Okay, there is no water in the river, but we don't talk about that. But Ramanujan is talking about that. Bearing the sand reefs, straw and women's hair clogging the water gates at the busty bars under the bridges with patches of repairs all over them. Okay, so we see a picture that is really very dirty picture here. That is, there is a river which is now dry, and there is garbage like women's hair, straw, which don't allow the water, don't allow the water to go out. Okay, so at the busty bars under the bridges with patches. Here the writer is talking about bridge, okay, which is full of patch, repairs, and the wet stones glistening like sleepy crocodiles. And then he comes to stones, okay, so which looks like glistening like sleepy crocodiles. The dry ones, shaven water buffaloes lounging in the sun. Okay, the dry stone looks like a buffalo, which is lounging in the sun. The poets only sang of the floods. Okay, but what writer says that other poets are only talking about floods. But what about there is no water in the river? Okay, so can it become the theme? Can it become the object or main idea of the poem? Okay, so writer is talking about that. He was there for a day when they had the floods. People everywhere talked of the eaches rising of the precise number of cobbled steps run by the water rising on the bathing places. Okay, so writer is saying that he was there. Okay, he means he is talking about one person. Okay, who witnessed this flood. He was there when there was flood here. Okay, in Madurai, and there was only water on the steps, bathing place. There was water only, and the way it carried off 3 village houses, 1 pregnant woman, and a couple of cows named Gopi and Brinda, as usual. Okay, then now we feel the sensitivity. Okay, in this poem, that we are becoming sentimental. Okay, at this point, because now it comes to talk about the loss. Okay, the loss faced by people, because what happened કે ફ્લડ આવે છે અને એમાં આખું જે ગામ છે એ તણાઈ જાય છે એમાં. Okay, then what happens? One pregnant woman and a couple of cows named Gopi and Brinda, as usual, આ બધા છે એનો loss થાય છે બીજા લોકોને. Okay, the new poets still quoted the old poets, but no one spoke in verse of the pregnant women drowned with perhaps twins in her, kicking at blank walls even before birth. Okay, so writer wants to convey a message, or he complains that anybody who is writing about river, he writes about flood in river. Okay, but they do not write about the pathos, about the sorrow, about the loss, okay, of people staying over there. Okay, he said, The river has water enough to be poetic. Okay, about only once a year, and then it carries away in the first half hour 3 village houses, a couple of cows named Gopi and Brinda, and one pregnant woman expecting identical twins with no moles on their bodies, with different colored diapers to tell them apart. Now, it is a realistic imagination that lady was pregnant and expecting 2 children, okay, 2 twins, okay, sorry, twins, and if they were born, okay, and they were not having any identical clue on their body, but they would be identified by wearing different diapers, okay, they are not having same moles, same birthmark on the body, but they will be identified by wearing different colored diapers. So, first of all, it is really very simple poem, okay. When you try to read it once or second time, you can understand. But we have to read between the lines, okay. Writer is talking about a pregnant woman, so why he is talking about a pregnant woman, cows, that is Brinda and Gopi, why he is talking about this? First of all, when we have an idea of writing a poem, okay, then our subject will be love, rose, and beloved, so beauty, okay, which is in our mind mainly, okay. But he, means writer here, wants to project realistic situation of people, okay. When you are writing about river, then why should you mandatorily tell it that it is really very holistic, okay. It is dirty, then you should show that it is dirty. Here we have the picture when women's hair and other dirt is there in the water, okay. So he has intentionally put these words in the poem, so you can imagine the situation of river, okay. So we have to showcase the reality through literature. So in a way, the writer cannot be digested by the people who don't think much, okay. When he says that poets are copying other or quoting other writers, other poets, but they should have their own observation regarding the same object, okay. You might have heard about the river, you might have heard about Ganga in a poem, okay, in Gujarati, Hindi or English, and it must be in a different way. But now you are studying river by A.K Ramanujan, that is also a different way. So we should have our own observation regarding a poem if you are writing or if you are understanding or reading the poem, okay. We can say that here it is a satire, okay. It is a satire on new writers, on the tradition of writing, okay, that they repeat the things in the literature, okay. I am not saying all, but it happens. So writer is saying that we should showcase the realistic situation of a river, of anything, because when we read the poem, we have the realistic view of the poet in this poem. Here, other that is, we can see that dark side of India, okay, where the river is considered where the river has an importance from the religious perspective, but the writer is giving a picture which is really very dirty, okay, as the river is so dirty, okay, so nobody takes care of it. Then he comes to talk about pregnant women who lost her life and her children's lives, okay. So nobody talks about this, nobody cares of it, but we should portray those things in the poem so we can give it to many. Suppose I should not say suppose, but in reality you are reading this poem, so what writer wanted to convey to you, so he is putting forward through a poem, through the piece of writing, okay. So in a way it is really good manner of putting forward the realistic situation through a poem, okay. So he has in a way a detached view from the society, okay, because he is not thinking about what many people are thinking. He has his own individual idea about while looking into the words, looking when he looks in the world, okay. So in a way he conveys some message that we should also focus on reality, okay, and observation should be yours. Observation કરતા રહેવું પડે છે, બરાબર. When he gives detailed observation in the poem, ત્યારે આપણને એવું ખબર પડે છે. So I hope you understood the poem, and thank you.